Hello everyone, Shawn Carey with Migration Productions, and welcome back to Exploring the Natural World. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the legendary and iconic figure that is and was E.O. Wilson. Now, I'm a longtime member of the Nuttall Ornithological Club, otherwise simply known as Nuttall or the NOC, which is the oldest bird club in North America and for which I've been a member for just over 20 years. The NOC would typically meet for its monthly meetings at Harvard University, and at these monthly meetings, I'm the one that's responsible for making sure that the AV needs run smoothly. So where am I going with this? Well, last year, I sat down with a friend of mine, a longtime member of the NOC, Peter Alden, who lives in Concord, Massachusetts. Peter was a friend of E.O. Wilson for many years, although Peter never refers to him as E.O. Wilson or Mr. Wilson. Peter just simply calls him Ed. So anyway, I sat down with Peter to have him talk about his relationship a little bit with Ed Wilson, but more importantly, how he helped set up a lecture for Ed Wilson to give to the NOC back in 2018. At that meeting that Ed Wilson gave to the NOC at Harvard University, I was tasked with making sure that it was being video recorded, and for that I brought in a very good friend of mine, John Sutherland, who did the actual video recording itself. So thanks to John for his help. So in today's video, you're going to hear the introduction that Peter's going to give of E.O. Wilson, followed by the first part of the lecture that Ed Wilson gave to the NOC at Harvard University back in December of 2018. You're not going to see the entire lecture, although I'll post that at a later date if you're interested in seeing it in its entirety. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos here on Exploring the Natural World. And as always, remember, please help protect wildlife and help protect wild places. Cheers.
I'm Peter Alden. I live here in Concord, Massachusetts, and I've been a member of the prestigious and very old Nuttall Ornithological Club since 1970. Roger Torrey Peterson was one of our young members way back when and a great hero to many of us birders. I got involved trying to get an honorary degree with Virginia Peterson and Senator Dodd of Connecticut from Harvard, and they said, we don't give, and Roger passed on, and so we couldn't get an honorary degree. But they said we can do a memorial lecture, and we decided on E.O. Wilson to be the lecturer. And for 12 years, I worked with E.O. Wilson and a committee of Harvard Monkey Mucks, deciding who's going to speak and having various gatherings and a wonderful series of lectures once a year to 1,000 people. Later on, Ed Wilson and I started something called Bio Blitzes. We've had Christmas bird counts for 100 years or so, but we only counted birds in the winter. And I decided, had an epiphany, saying after I did my series of books on, New England and other things like that, that why don't we go out and do it in the summertime and include all visible life forms. So I did a series of 8 books around the country, including this field guide to New England, and Ed Wilson volunteered and said, great, let's do it together. We used his Rolodex and mine. So I got to know this very famous person, Ed Wilson, and he joined us for all these bio blitzes that we run in his honor and for Henry Thoreau's honor. And we also did it with the state government for 6 years, the first government-sponsored bio blitzes in the entire world. When it came time to maybe bring Ed Wilson into our Nuttall Ornithological Club, we decided to give him an honorary degree. And in addition to getting the honorary degree from our Ornithological Club, would he be willing to give a major lecture at Harvard's Museum of Comparative Zoology to our members and guests, which Ed did, and you'll be seeing later on in this program. So I've been working in 100 countries around the world for 55 years, and Ed and I remain very good friends. I'm one of the few amateurs that he talks to and picks up on the phone, and we see each other, every bunch of months, one way or another. And I really appreciate the time he has given, his career, the books that he's written, the papers that he's given, the scientific work he's done. He's not that much of a birder, but he did start out wanting to be a birder in Alabama as a kid, but a fishing accident with a fish hook made him basically a one-eyed observer. And so then he switched from birds to ants. But his works and the inspiration he has given to so many people around the world has really helped conservation and ecology in so many ways. So he's a giant among men, but we're so pleased to have him as an honorary member of the Nuttall Ornithological Club. And it was partly, again, due to my friendship with Roger Torrey Peterson. It opened the doors to get to know Ed Wilson and spend lots and lots of time with him. And our BioBlitzes here in Concord have netted over 3,600 species of plants, animals, mushrooms, and mosses over the 3 different Julys that we have done these BioBlitzes. Let's look forward to seeing Ed Wilson talking to the Nuttall Ornithological Club at the MCZ at Harvard in December of 2018.
Can you hear me more clearly? Can you hear every word that I say in the back? That's unfortunate. Okay, all right. I will speak on biodiversity. That's a subject I've spent a lot of time on. In the 67 years I've been at Harvard, coming to the MCZ, 67 years, and countless hundreds of Harvard students have passed through my courses and my exams, and I rather hope none of them are here tonight, at least not armed. Okay, now I've chosen to speak not on birds, about which I know very little, but I was hopeful to take field trips with this wonderful guy here and learn a lot more. I'm very proud to be elected to the august Nuttall Society, because all the time I spent here was as a mere professor of entomology. At any rate, I'm going to speak, and I apologize if my tone sometimes gets semi-serious, on the subject of biodiversity. That's short for biological diversity, the diversity of life, and it is defined as the inherited variation of any forms of life, any designated group, which can be the whole earth, biodiversity, an island in the ocean. I carried on experiments with one of our graduate students, for example, on an island that entailed removing all of the insects and then studying every species that came back. Ecosystem, or at least what we call an ecosystem with the biodiversity in it, can be a pond, a tree hole in the tree. It can be the bacteria in your large intestine. It can be even the little eyebrow mites that live in the fleshy material just above your eye in most people, of which that's the genus, they form the genus Demonex, and there are 2 species of that. You've got them. They are in your, between your eyebrows, in the fatty flesh that's there. All of that effort that you've taken to clean and beautify your face has not had any effect on them at all, because they know about men and ladies for millennia, and they're not about to be removed. But then one of those demodex could be removed, and that's an ecosystem because it has a bacterial fauna throughout its intestine and over its whole surface, which you could spend a lifetime studying. Biodiversity is a hierarchy. That is, first of ecosystems, like a pond, or like the ones I've just cited, the forest, tree holes, and so on. That's at the highest level of this 3-level hierarchy. In the middle of the species that constitute the hierarchy, and then the most fundamental at the 3rd level down are the genes, which specify, prescribe the traits that define the species that make up the ecosystem. Ecosystems, the highest of all biological levels, are a complex conglomeration of interacting elements that are the least well understood, and ultimately among the most important subjects for human welfare. Now, I'm going to spend this very short period of time I have to present a primer on the key ideas of evolutionary biology that pertain to biodiversity, and especially to the biodiversity defined at the ecosystem level. And I will try to present them in a way that demonstrates how relevant they are to our current ecological problems and our future as a species. Now, I'm not going to be, because there are students seated here, I'm not going to be shy in suggesting that the development of ecosystem science, I'm now giving it that title, it didn't have a title before, ecosystem science, is to be anything less than one of the next big things in biology, toward which we would be wise to direct many of our brightest students, thank you, that we would be wise to direct our brightest students. Go when you're planning your career, even if you're already in Harvard and thought you had your career pretty well planned. Plan on going into ecosystem science, because this is going to be with the breadth and with the opportunities for major science, paradigmatic science, big new ideas, and this will happen just as you are emerging into your postdoctoral experience. But first, let me take a little note of the fact that we are passing through not one environmental crisis, but three. The first, of course, is climate change. And this is coming along. We can solve climate change because we know what causes it, and increasingly we know what the consequences will be if we don't get it stopped. And we can reverse it if we wish, and probably it would be wise for society to prepare to reverse climate change somewhat, to sort of get a more of a balance in the global environment. If we don't, if I might coin another term, we'll proceed to the process of veneerization. That is, we are moving the planet Earth into a circumstance on its surface that will make it evolve in the future parallel to Venus. And we know what happened to Venus, and it's far more frightening than most people would imagine. I don't know if many of you were aware that the Soviet Union were successful in landing a soft lander on the surface of Venus, made the first photographs and took the first measurements on the surface of a planet, Venus. We did it in 1976 with Mars, but I want to see the hands of those who realize the Soviet Union was the first to do it for a planet. Yeah, that's a historical fact that more note should be taken. But at any rate, the point is that Venus turned out on the surface to have a temperature of 1800 degrees. That's enough to melt lead. And the atmosphere was found to be 100 times approximately that on Earth. This led to a discussion I had with Carl Sagan. So this is one of my Carl Sagan stories. We used to talk, I knew him well, and we used to talk about the prospects of life on other solar planets. I mean, there's got to be bacteria or prokaryotic organisms of some kind on pools of water that must form, as they do in Yellowstone Park, volcanic vents, must form on the little moon of Saturn as the water that makes up the interior of Enceladus shoots out to a spume into space. And it's got to be around the vents, pools that are graded in some manner in the external environment in which they exist. And since that's been going on for possibly billions of years, there's got to be life there. And then when we drill into Europa, through one of those cracks that takes us close to the ocean of Europa, then surely we will come up with something in the way of organism as happened. And I'm not being a pro-Russian right now. When I mention Russia again, this is not an appeal to go easy on the Russia admirer in chief.